But when I sat back and analyzed it, it was like, I'm not actually having anxiety about writing, I'm having anxiety about thinking about writing.
How do you start writing a story? What's your process?
I think I start writing in my head before I ever put it on paper. You know, you get ideas, and I have so many ideas for movies in my phone. Just 'cause it usually comes with a regular concept, you know. This has never been done, or that's never been done. I think about, like, that story needs to be told, you know. I think that's what movies are, is like, you're inspired to tell a story, somebody's point of view that's never been seen before, you know. That's a lot of movies. Me, I go more on the entertainment side of things. Like, oh, that story should be told, but it's a sci-fi or whatever, because I feel like people would be entertained by it. So, I mean, different things motivate different people. I think it starts in my head, the writing process, and then eventually, a lot of people have writer's block. And I think that's because they think about writing instead of writing. I think once you know what the feel needs to be, what the story is, you should outline. You should have an idea of what the scenes are to create the whole story, how many scenes, all that stuff. And then go in and start writing. And when I say go in and start writing, you just got to sit down and you have to start typing. And what you write might not be good. You can always rewrite it. But it's the anxiety. People mostly don't write because they have anxiety about writing. They don't want to sit down still. You got to put that time aside, and you got to just go do it. You have to sit down and you have to start writing. Bad or good, start writing.
Have you always been so disciplined? You seem very driven to me. Like, if you want something, there's no stopping it. You are going to try to achieve it. Sorry if that sounds too...
No, it definitely is.
I'm not
me.
selling a course, by the way.
It's me in a nutshell. It is me in a nutshell. Okay. I definitely... I can't force an outcome. That I can't do. I seem to have a lot of luck when it comes to me. I want to do this and just buckling down and doing it. I don't really talk too much about something when I know it's on my top 5 of my list to do. You know, but that's the thing. I will talk about certain things, but they're not on the top of my list of things to do. And so those are the only things I might talk about. But my next feature film, unless for some reason I die, that will get made. There's no question in my mind. There's not a 1% chance I won't make it. You know, we've already made 11 minutes of it. So I'm making 11 minutes of the next feature film and then handing it to my investors and maybe get some new investors to make the rest of the film. So I thought, well, let me show people what I can do, and then see how many people will open their wallets to keep going with it. And if they don't, I'll find other people that do. So, but no, I've never had any problems buckling down and just doing the work. I think a lot of people think of obstacles that get in their way, and like, oh, I need that before I do this. But it's like, I'm not afraid to fall on my face. Like, I'm not afraid to make something that's bad. Not to say I'm trying to, and not to say that I want to, but it's not a fear of mine. It's like, go, do the work, get it done, and it is what it is. People like it, and some people, no matter what you do, someone's gonna hate it. Someone's gonna love it, you know? So that's art, that's storytelling. So I've always been very goal-orientated and just go get it done. What are the steps to get there, you know? Bad Advice was a whole TV series that we shot. And I produced it, I directed it, all by myself. So, and I found all the locations myself. So if I was to look, I had a giant chalkboard with all the locations on it, 100 locations. I could have never... I mean, to look at that board, you would be so overwhelmed if you thought about getting all these locations. I literally went, what's the location I'm gonna find next? And that's all I'd focus on. So these bigger goals that you have to focus on little things at a time. The same thing with writing. You gotta focus on one scene, or focus on what's the next scene that needs to be great, and then the next scene, and then know how that fits into the whole thing. But goal-orientatedly focus on one thing at a time. And if you're getting overwhelmed by looking at the whole piece, you have to look at one piece at a time and accomplish that thing to get done to the next thing.
So you would actually think of a situation and then write a scene around that? One of these dating situations that's in a lot of
No,
your
for
films?
Bad Advice, so Bad Advice has 4 storylines and they all tie in together. And then it needs to kind of like wrap up at the end in the sense that it ends bad for everybody comedically. Kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm or Seinfeld. But the storylines need to affect each other. So that was the hardest part about writing for me, was the outline process. So I'd have all the storylines for every storyline I want to tell. And then say I'd only be able to fit so many on the chalkboard. And then I'd say, which ones can I connect? Because that was the key part of the writing for me that I thought made the scripts good, was finding, oh, that storyline could affect this storyline and turn out in a comedic moment, you know. So that's what I felt was my positive part of the show, or positive part of what I'm adding to comedically make it work. And so, yeah, just focusing on one storyline at a time. Once I knew how the storylines connected, I would just sit down and write. And I didn't know everything in between. I'd kind of let my imagination go. And then sometimes it was bad and I deleted it, you know. But ultimately, if I thought it was funny and I thought it worked within the structure of, you know, since I already have the outline done, I know the beginning and I know the end, and then I had to fill in the middle, basically, with the writing process. So that's kind of how I did it.
And do you think because you're not afraid to write something bad, you said, or that to fail or whatever it is, that you don't have writer's block because you're just like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and I'm going to rewrite it. I'll be okay with that. I'm not invested in it has to be perfect. I'm this writer, and
I think the reason I know that is because I've been on the other side of it. I have had anxiety about writing and haven't written, but I've kind of learned, it's kind of like, so I'd never written 10 pages a day before Bad Advice. I wrote 10 pages a day on Bad Advice, the TV series that's out there, by doing it. And then once I wrote 10 pages in a day, I was like, well, I can do that again. I've already done it once. You know, so you build confidence. Like if you've done it, now you've done it. So you know you can do it. So do it again. You know, so it's baby steps in that way. Now when I have any anxiety about writing, I'm thinking about it. I'm not doing it. And I've learned that in myself. So I speak about it only because I've learned about it in myself and I've made those mistakes. If I didn't make them, I probably wouldn't know it. But when I sat back and analyzed it, it was like, I'm not actually having anxiety about writing. I'm having anxiety about thinking about writing. Sit down, start doing the process, you know. And that's probably the same, I would think, with filmmaking, with everything. You know, you're gonna learn more by doing. If you have a lot of anxiety doing it, just start doing it. And realize it might be trash if you just start, but at least you're learning, so.
when you're writing characters, are you just mainly thinking about their dialogue?
I'm a very dialogue-heavy writer when it comes, at least to Bad Advice for sure, because it's comedy. A lot of things have been comedy in the past, so very, very much thinking about dialogue. Yeah, when you look at my scripts, they're not very descriptive, a lot of them. I think the next feature I'm doing, which is an action drama, I have pages of description, which is totally different, but I'm describing every movement in an action scene, you know, and nobody's talking. And so I got to describe and kind of paint a picture. And my brothers help me write that, so it's more descriptive because he's better at that stuff than me. I know what I want. I know it's in my head, but then I have to describe it to him and then he can put it on the page more. And I've just learned that he's better at that than me, and so I accept that and I take his help. But the dialogue, I've always been very much a dialogue writer in a lot of ways. And I think if you know your characters, you know what they would say and what they wouldn't say. And you just, the more you backstory your character, the more you know about your character, the more you know what's going to come out of their mouth, I think. Whether that's in drama or in comedy. I think with Bad Advice, I leaned more in on the comedy. So it was like, I would always lean on Dallas, Ronald Quigley's character, for the comedic element. There were certain times when a scene wasn't working and I was like, well, what can Dallas say to make this funny? Or what point of view he can have that's ridiculous that would make this funny? Because he's kind of the wacky, out of the box character. So I knew he could always bring the comedy. And he's the only person I wrote the role for. the role of Dallas. So I could really imagine him delivering it. As to where the other characters, you have Dallas, who's the landlord, who's like the wacky the wacky off the wall character. And then you have Greg, who's an insecure kind of like mess. And then you have Jordan, who's the straight guy, who's kind of along. He's kind of the audience's point of view. And then Brad is a total, he's Ashton Kutcher in that 70s show. He's a mimbo, he's a total dumbass. So I knew the characters when writing it. And sometimes the scenes would become funny with other characters, but I will say I definitely heavily leaned on Dallas's character to bring it back, just because I always found kind of the off the wall, like Kramer character in Seinfeld so entertaining. So I always kind of brought that back around to make the scene entertaining, and always lend. And I knew the more I wrote it, the more I knew each character's voice and what they would say. And you get better and better with that, as the scripts would come along.
And it seems like similar in Wally Got Wasted, especially, forgive me on the character's name, but with the long blonde hair. He was always very distinct in his dialogue.
His name was Jerry, and Aaron Groban played him. Yes, I didn't fully write Wally Got Wasted. Seth Himes, my partner, wrote the script, and I kind of told him what to write. So we teamed up on that. But so two different people wrote the dialogue to those things. But it's funny how they probably do have similar things. But yeah, no, he was definitely a dumb character in that. And I've been sticking to that a lot, I guess, in the sense of like my two projects have mirrored similar characters in a way. But comedy, it's because comedy has the same characters in a lot of ways, though. I might not be doing anything original in the sense of comedy. I mean, there's so many comedic teams out there that have been so good in the past that you can watch something and that might inspire you to kind of change it, but still it's something that somebody did in the past in a way. I mean, and sometimes I'm doing things maybe that are similar to something else and I don't even know it, I mean, it's not like anything in my script is something that I saw somewhere else. Not consciously, but maybe unconsciously it is, because where did I learn humor from? Where did I learn comedy from? You learned it from Three Stooges or, the things that you grew up watching, which for me, Seinfeld, Curb, I've seen every episode. And so people say Bad Advice is similar to Curb Your Enthusiasm or Seinfeld. I hear that all the time. It's because that's what inspired me to write this, It's in the same vein of that humor. And so that people recognize that makes me feel good, because that's what I wanted in the writing, is to make it feel similar to that. And now Curb Your Enthusiasm is over, so hopefully we can fill some of the gap of people wanting to watch stuff like that for Bad Advice,